What if I told you that one small mistake could tie up your properties in court for months or even years? In this video, I'm going to show you how smart estate planning can save landlords from expensive legal battles, massive time delays, and unnecessary headaches. We've worked with dozens of property owners who thought they were protected until it was too late. But the good news is, with the right plan in place, you can avoid all of that. I'm estate planning attorney Mike Smith with Smith Barid LLC, and I'm one half of the estate planning guys. We've helped countless families and property owners in Georgia avoid probate and protect what they've worked hard to build. And this topic has a personal aspect for me. My father was a real estate investor for many years, and I helped him to work through the process of getting things organized and putting them together in a way that would cause no problems for any of our family if something happened to him. So you might think that you're covered with just a will, but stay with me because what I'm about to share could change the way you protect your real estate portfolio. So let me ask you a question. What happens to your rental properties if something happens to you? Now, most landlords assume that their family will just kind of take over. But the truth is, if your property isn't properly titled, it will go through probate when you pass away. Or it can go through a probate process called conservatorship if you become mentally incapacitated. So for example, if you had a stroke or you developed Alzheimer's, if your properties are titled in your personal name, and you don't have a trust or an LLC or anything to control those properties, then they're going to end up going through that conservatorship process, and your family's going to have to wait until someone's appointed by the probate court before they can take control of your property. And here's the thing about probate. It's not quick. It can take 6, 12, sometimes even 18 months, depending on what the court's backlog is. I've had cases that took 4.5 years. And during that time, your property, well, it's stuck. There's no ability for anybody to do anything with the property. There's no updates to anything. Everything just kind of is stuck in limbo. So if you've ever thought about what might happen with your rental properties in the event of your death or incapacity, go ahead and tap that like button, and let's help you and other landlords find this important information. Now, here's another thing that nobody understands. Owning rental property in your personal name can be risky. So let's say that you have a tenant who slips and falls on your property and they file a lawsuit against you. If the property is titled in your name, then your personal assets could be on the line. But if you hold the property in an LLC or some other similar entity, you're going to create a liability shield. And I think of that as a bubble around that property. And so that bubble is going to protect everything outside of the bubble from anything that happens inside the bubble. I know that's a little bit crazy, but think of it this way. The LLC, it just traps that house, that property, that rental property inside of the bubble. And so if someone has a slip and fall in that property, the liability for that stays within the bubble, so it doesn't affect any of your other assets that are outside the bubble. So that's what we like to do a lot of times for people, is set up LLCs to hold these rental properties. And you can think of that like a fireproof safe, basically, that's going to keep the fire that might be burning inside of that LLC from getting outside and reaching your personal assets. So it keeps your personal wealth protected, even if something goes wrong on one of your properties. Now, if you're a landlord and you want a free guide to estate planning strategies, you can click the link in the description below, and you'll find different resources on our resources page that can help you with determining where you are in things, whether you've got things set up right or whether you need some help. And it's got a lot of practical tips that we've used with our own clients. So let's talk about the next thing, which is transferring property to a trust or an LLC. And you're going to find out that this is a key move that a lot of landlords overlook. By placing your property into a living trust or transferring it to an LLC before you put it into the trust, it takes care of what happens if something happens to you. Because if it's in a trust, there's going to be no probate. We don't have to go down to the courthouse and have anyone appointed. Your successor trustee, your backup quarterback, if you will, simply steps in and takes care of things on your behalf and keeps things going, can collect the rents, can pay bills. There's no court delays. There's no legal fees involved in that. And there's no stress. They can just keep on operating things the way that you've been doing it before, something happened to you. It's just fascinating to me how many people don't understand this concept, but a properly structured trust can act, kind of like a baton pass in a relay race. I don't know if you've ever seen a relay race, but one runner is carrying the baton and they run up to the line and there's another runner there and they just hand it off. And it's a really smooth, fast, and efficient way to keep things going. So the living trust is also a great way to make that baton pass quick, easy, efficient. It's a great way to have things set up. So let's recap what we've talked about in this video. Probate can tie up your properties for a long time. On the short side, it's going to be 6 months, but it could be years. Holding property in your personal name exposes your other assets to any kind of legal risk from that property. And that's completely unnecessary. Pretty easy to put some protection in place for that. And then the last thing that we've covered is that transferring your rental properties into a trust or an LLC can protect your assets and simplify what happens next if something happens to you. If you found this video helpful, make sure to check out our next video on the great wealth transfer and what it means for your family's future. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.